Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.
How's everybody doing this beautiful, beautiful Shabbat day? Hallelujah. This Shabbat, we are back again on the Father Set Apart Day, and what we're going to be doing is doing the final conclusion on Ruth and the plains of Moab. We have some maps today, so we should be able to better follow along as we look at the pattern that Israel was traveling in order to get to the Promised Land. And I pray again that everything goes well. It's a pleasure always to seeing everybody here as we do the countdown to Pesach. I'm sure everybody is happy about that, right? Okay, hallelujah. Very good. So before we get started, we want to make sure that we give all esteem and honor to the Father of Yahuah for his compassion, his tolerance, his love, and he's constantly showing towards us as people, the nation of Yashra'al. So we always want to make sure that we give all esteem to the Father for all the great things that he's doing for us. Now, before we get started, I wanted to give my own little personal testimony on how important Torah is for me. And I wrote down a few things here. All right, so one, my own personal testimony is that I've come to the understanding or the overstanding that I will always and forever be in the Father's day. Always. So him sending his son, the Mashiyach, to be that ultimate atoning sacrifice for me is very, very important. Without the Mashiyach, the way that I look at it, when we're reading the scriptures, if it wasn't for him, it's a wrap. And based upon my merits and my deeds, I am still found wanting and lacking in regards to my loyalty towards the Father. I come to the understanding that I can never repay the Father for the crimes that I've committed towards his Torah. I understand that I have no one to blame for my conditions but myself. I understand that me being submissive to all of Torah, and that's going to be the operative word always, all of the Torah is my only means of reconciling or reconnecting back to the Father. So I'm going to say this again. Me being submissive to all of Torah is my only means of reconnecting back to the Father. Also, let's go to some scriptures here to try to make heads and tails of all of this. We can go to the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy 30. And I'm going to start with the 10th verse. Let's do it this way here. Torah is going to be very important. And again, this is how we reconnect back to the Father. It is going to always take us to be submissive to the Father and to his Torah, his instructions that he gave us. If we can't do that, we might be in a world of a problem here. So let's start at the 30th chapter. The 30th chapter, we're going to start with verse 10. It says, if, and that word if is very, very important. So that means that it's contingent on a few things. If thou shalt hearken, and that word hearken, like we have went over so many times before, is the Strong's number 8085, and that word hearken means to shema, which means to listen unto the voice of Yahuah, your Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in this book of the law, the Torah instructions. If you turn into Yahuah, your Elohim, our Elohim, with all our hearts and with all our soul, for this commandment which I command you this day, it is not hidden. And so when I looked up the word hidden, just to make sure that we have good, sound understanding of what's going on here. It's the Strong's number 6381. And it means to be marvelous, be wonderful, be surpassing, be extraordinary. To be beyond one's power, be difficult to do, to be difficult to understand. And the Brown's Driver-Briggs definition gives us properly, perhaps to separate, that is to distinguish, by implication to be great, difficult, or wonderful. So we go back now to the scriptures, 30 and 15, and verse 11. For this commandment which I command you this day, it is not hidden from you, neither is it far off. It is not in Shamayim that you should say, who shall go up for us to Shamayim and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it. And that word here there is going to be very important, because we have again the word hear, to listen, to shema, and to do it. So again, the operative word, or the operative thing that we should be getting in verse 2 is that we should do it. And do it is a verb. So Hebrew is an action language. It's an action language, so verbs shows action. And the way that we show our honor, love, and respect to the Father is that we have to show action. Verse 12 again. It is not in Shamayim that you should say, who shall go up for us to Shamayim and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it into us, that we may hear it and do it. But the word is very near. Again, but the word, or Torah, the Devarim, the words, they are very near unto you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you mayest do it. See, I have set before you this day life and good, and death and evil. And like I brought out so many times before, which is going to be very important, we have life and good, and then we have death, moots, and evil, and ra. So basically we have the tree of knowledge of good and evil all over again. So it's going to be up to us now whether or not we're going to choose the right thing to do. If not, the consequences, like I always say, can be very, very dangerous. The goal and the mission of the ministry is to move from the state of unconsciousness back to consciousness again. We always say that. Moving from consciousness to unconsciousness. The book of Yahuah, 12th chapter. The book of Matthew, the 12th chapter. We are going to let's do it this way. Let's go to 1246. Book of Matthew, 1246. If we could just set some ground rules before we get started, we'll be good to go. The book of Matthew, 1246. Now listen how important this is. We're going to have our executive moray to read that, the book of Matthew, the 12th chapter, verse 46. And watch how this plays out.
Yahuah, 12th chapter, 46th verse. While he yet talked to the people,
And he is the Mashiyach.
behold, his mother and his brethren stood without.
And what should be looked at here is that the mother is not inside of the congregation. She's not there where the Mashiyach is, and he's speaking now to the Talmudim and the rest of the audience. Read on.
His mother and his brother stood without, desiring to speak with him. Then one said unto him, Behold, thy mother and thy brother stand without, desiring to speak with thee. But he answered and said unto them that told him, Who is my mother? And who are my brethren?
So we see now this is a question and how it gets very, very personal. Okay, when we follow these laws, statutes, commandments, it is very important that we understand it's going to take a sacrifice. And without that sacrifice, how would the Father know that you will actually be able to endure to the end? So we just want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what this walk is about. It's going to take the ultimate sacrifice. And if not, maybe there might be something else easier for us to do. Some of us to do. Okay, but there's no other way around it. In order to reconcile back into the Father, we're going to have to make sure that we follow all of Torah. Read on.
But he answered and said unto them that told him, Who is my mother and who are my brethren? And he stretched forth his hand towards his disciples and said, Behold my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father, which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother.
Right, so the question was asked, looking at verse 50, what is the one word that stands out above all of the words there? There's one word. Right, the will. So it was always about doing the will of the Father. I always say this every single time that I speak, is that it's always about doing the Father's will. It's not about your will. We were created to do the Father's will. Anything outside of that is like you're an adversary to the Father. So it's very important that we understand that we must do the will of the Father. Now, let's get to the meat. The meat. Now, my points of interest on why I believe Ruth was a Moabite. Again, I believe that she was a Moabite. One reason is because I have found no documentation that says Ruth was an Israelite or a Reubenite straight out. Have not found it. Number two, I found very interesting that Ruth is placed in a category with other women who were not Israelites. In the book of Ruth, the 4th chapter, if we can have a Koti Shayet, if she can do Ruth, the 4th chapter, verse 9, verse 11, which is very, very important. The 4th chapter, verses 9 through 11. Let me just get it right quick. Okay, 9 and 11.
And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, Ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilion's, and Mahlon's, and of the hand of Naomi. Right,
so what I noticed in verse 9 that we're talking about inheritance. Inheritance is very, very important. And so we see now is that Boaz, he's amongst a very important council here, the elders, and he's purchasing the land from one Elimelech and all that was Chilion's, which is the son, Mahlon, of the hand of Naomi, because Elimelech had passed away, he had died. We had Chilion, he had passed away. Mahlon had passed away. And with the death of all of these men here, the property now goes back to Naomi, who was an Israelite. Notice very, very carefully here now is that it did not say that the land went back to Ruth, right? Ruth was actually married to Mahlon. It is very, very clear, unless somebody has a different translation, because I have not found anywhere that Ruth was an Israelite. I'm just going to read it. And Boaz said to the elders and to all the people, the judges and the elders, You are witnesses this day that I have brought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. So again, the land now goes back to Naomi, who was an Israelite. And This is about inheritance. Verse 10, please.
Moreover, Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife.
That's very important. The word purchase, if somebody can just type in what word do we get for the word purchase?
Tanak.
Right. What definition do we have for that here?
To get, acquire, create, buy, possess.
You got it? You can hear it?
No, you gotta speak up a little louder.
I'm sorry. To get, acquire, create, buy, possess.
Right. Absolutely. So basically we get the idea. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Nahalon, have I purchased. Now, the word purchase is so important because we have a situation where the husband is dead. Ruth is a free woman. The word used for covering, a man taken, a Isha, she's looked at as being purchased. Here. Purchased. The reason why I wanted to stand on that point there just for a minute is because there's a teaching and there's a belief, because of the system that we're living in today, that if a young woman got to be a certain age and she wasn't married yet, and she says, listen, no, I want to go out and I want to try the world. I want to go out now, leave my father's house, get my own place, and do my own thing. That is not Hebrew culture at all. It is not there. In order for a woman to leave her father's house, I know this might be an ugly word, okay, but she must be purchased. All right? The man now goes to the father and says, listen, you know what? I want to take your daughter from your covering, because this word purchase now is associated with the word covering. I want to take her from your covering and bring her now to my covering. This all this does now, it makes sure that the woman is protected. Right? Protected. We're looking at this now from a Hebraic perspective, not the Christian Western world perspective. All right? She must have a covering. Read on, please. Start at verse 10 again.
Moreover, Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife,
Okay.
to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance.
Okay, so who is actually, okay, we have Boaz, he's married, he purchased Naomi, and then it says now to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. So who are the two people that we're talking about here? Right, you're talking about the father, okay, and then the father had two sons, Mahlon and Chilion. We know that Orpah, which was the other Moabite woman, she said forget about the inheritance, she went back to her people. So now we have a situation where somebody is attached to the land, okay, that needs to be purchased, and that woman was actually Ruth. So we have the man, which is Elimelech, and we have the son, Mahlon. So that the dead be not cut off from among his brethren. Read on.
And from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day.
Right, verse 11.
And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The sovereign make the woman that is come into thine house.
Which is Ruth. Okay, so thine house is going to be very important, because once the daughter leaves the father's house, her responsibility now is to build, to assist. Now her Ash for her is her Ish. So again, let me just read it. And all the people that were in the gate and all the elders said, we are witnesses. Yahuah made the woman, which is Ruth, that is coming to your house, your covering. Read on.
Like Rachel.
Like Rachel. Rachel was not an Israelite. She was not an Israelite. She was Shemitic, but she was not an Israelite. Read on.
And Leah,
Leah was not an Israelite.
which two did build the house.
So these two women here built the house.
Built the house of Yashra'al, and do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem.
Right. So in the King James Version, which I do like, they have certain words in parentheses. Now watch how it sounds a little bit different. And all the people that were in the gate, and the elders said, we are witnesses. Yahuah make the woman that is coming to your house under your covering, like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Yashra'al, get the riches or power in Ephrathah, and proclaim thy name in Bethlehem. Read on. Oh, no, that's about it. That's it. We just want to stay there. So again, I just want to bring out the point now is that we have Ruth, and Ruth now is being compared now to Leah, Rachel, Tamar. We can get to that a little bit later on, but just Ruth and Rachel so far, and these two women were responsible for building the house of Yashra'al. My third point is Ruth was not allowed to sell her husband's land. Again, Ruth was not allowed to sell her husband's land. Anybody know why?
Because it wasn't hers to inherit.
Right, exactly. Because we know that the father gave specific instructions.
Yes.
If Ruth, the reason why the order went this way, Ruth is a Moabite. This is a Judite territory. This is their land. A woman or a person from another nation cannot inherit Israelite land. It's not going to happen. The father even gave us specific instructions. If we was to have a king, he cannot be of another nation. So the father is always about protecting his people, the land, the inheritance. From Genesis to Revelation, I mean, it might be kind of hard for some people to believe out there in TV land, the Christian world, Western society. But from Genesis to Revelation, the Father is talking about the nation of Israel, securing and bringing his people back into covenant relationship with him. First and foremost. Every single thing else is secondary. You're first. And for some strange reason, being that we've been in captivity for so long, we don't like being first. We say if the other nations can't make it, I don't want to go. I mean, it's pretty much like that. Just like when the movie that we saw last week, I was for the revolution. That's what I was for. All right, I was not for sharing.
Right.
Okay. Okay, going out to the United Nations and we're going to share our resources. Nope, not me. Not me, because I've learned from history that anytime you try to compromise with the enemy, he's always been in the mindset, eventually he would take it from you, say that it is his, and put you now in captivity. That was always his plan from the very beginning, and like they say, the leopard will change his spots. Don't believe that he's going to change. 400 years, he's been consistent. He's telling me that I'm not going to change. All right, so we were finished with that, right? So again, Ruth was not allowed to sell her dead husband's land. By default, it went back to Naomi, who was an Israelite. Ruth became an inheritor, or she was attached to the land only through Boaz, her husband. In Ruth, the 4th chapter, verse 18, if we can have, let's see who we're going to have. Who's going to be the lucky one? The lucky one to do 4:18. Let's do Shalach Yahus Isha. Haven't heard her. Nice, powerful, strong voice. So let's see what she has for us. The book of Ruth, the 4th chapter, verse 18. Let me read my disclaimer first, or my statement. it states clearly that Judah was the father of Perez. That's going to be very important. And we know the mother of Perez was Tamar. Tamar was not a Hebrew Israelite. Some people say that she was a Canaanite. I'm more inclined to believe that she was Shemitic and not a Canaanite. When we track the names and look what's going on in scriptures, it's going to be very important that we try to identify every single character. And the reason why, because it's going to show now either a maternal line or a seed line to a particular person, whether it's a female or whether it's the male. So that's going to be extremely important. So we know that the father was Judah and the mother was Tamar. And if we were to trace the maternal line of Tamar, Boaz can make the claim that his grandmother at least was the 6th generational line of grandmothers. And even though he was a Judite, his bloodline is not tainted because of Tamar. So, Okoti, you are up. Ruth, the 4th chapter, verse 18 to verse 22.
Now these are the generations of Perez.
Perez, exactly.
Perez.
Mm-hmm.
Perez begat Chisra,
Okay.
Ezra, and Ezra begat Ram, and Ram begat Amminadab, and Amminadab begat Nahshon, and Nahshon begat Samal, and Samal begat Boaz, and Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Yeshai, and Yeshai begat David.
Exactly. And so what I saw here now is that we have Perez, and again, Perez's father's name was Judah, and Judah had relations with his daughter-in-law Tamar, and they brought forth these 2 children here, and one of them name was Perez. And we look through this genealogy here, and we see the word Boaz. Boaz is very, very important because, again, this is going to now show something very, very important. We have the line of Judah, but we're going to see now that it gets very particular. Inside of the line of Judah, we have the line of David. David is going to be very, very important because he can also trace his maternal line back to Tamar. Everybody's following along with me, right? Okay, I just want to make sure this thing is nice and clear. And finally, Ruth, the 2nd chapter, verse 10. It clearly states that Ruth was a foreigner. And we're going to get Yahuah. He's going to blow the shofar, and he's going to speak real loud for us. Okay, Ruth, the 2nd chapter, chapter 2, verse 10.
Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, Why have I found grace in your eyes, that you should take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger?
Ruth is saying that she is a stranger. She is a foreigner. To Strong's number 5, 2, 3, 7. If we can get Ezekiel to actually get me that definition there for me, please. Foreigner. To Strong's number 5, 2, 3, 7.
Nokri is the Hebrew word strange in a variety of degrees and applications: foreign, non-relative, adulterous, different, wonderful, alien, foreigner, outlandish, stranger, or strange woman.
Okay, all right. That sounds kind of easy and simple for me. Acts, the 2nd chapter, verses 7 through 10. If we can get a Kosi Rose to get that scripture for me. Acts, the 2nd chapter, read verses 7 through 10. Yeah, Acts, the 2nd chapter. Why are you getting that? The question is, Scripture says that 3 times a year, all males must report to Jerusalem. Right? We're good. This is my question. If being that we're scattered right now, All right, so if Yashra'al is scattered, if we're scattered abroad, now during the festival of Pesach, for example, there was a large gathering. We all came together from all over the place. The participants at the festival, being that we're coming from all over the place, would we be considered foreigners? If all Israelites are there, and we're coming from all over the place, and we're going to either, let's say, Pesach, Shavuot, or the Feast of Tabernacles. If we're coming from Georgia, Jersey, New York, Florida, all over the place, and we're meeting at one central location, the people that are attending this festival, and they're Israelites now, would they be considered foreigners or strangers, being that they're coming from all over the place?
No.
Okay, and that's my whole argument when you go back to Ruth, the 2nd chapter, verse 10. Okay, if she's saying that she's a stranger, she's an alien, she is of no kin, okay, to Israelites. Even if I didn't know you, if I never knew you, because a lot of times when I'm doing my travels and things like that, making deliveries and things of that sort, if I'm in any part of wherever I'm at, if there's a brother there, he would always acknowledge me. He said, listen, hey brother, how you doing? So that connection is always there, versus now a person from another nation, that connection might not be there. And to prove that, we're going to go to the book of Acts, the 2nd chapter, verses 7 through 10. Acts, the 2nd chapter, verses 7 through 10. Let's try to make some sense out of all of this here. No, but actually, let's start with verse 5. 2 and 5.
Okay, 2 and 5.
Yes.
Now in the time, there were dwelling,
Mhm.
there were dwelling, you had dedicated men from another nation under the heaven.
Right. So just to set the record straight, there were dwelling at Jerusalem Yahudims. Again, there were dwelling at Jerusalem Yahudims, devout men out of every nation under Shamayim. Okay, read on.
And when the sun came to be, the crowd came together, and they were confused, because everyone heard them speak in their own language.
Right, so we have to understand now these are devout Jews out of every nation, and this is now Shavuot, and they're hearing all these people coming from all over the place, from out of Shamayim, from under Shamayim, and they're speaking a particular language. Verse 7.
And they were all amazed and marveled, saying to each other, look, are not all these who speak Galileans?
Right, well not all these that speak Galileans. Galileans are, anybody know who Galileans are?